A group of women in Denver, Colorado finally got justice after being SA'd by a man they met online. 37-year-old Stephen Matthews was a cardiologist who was given the maximum sentence of 158 years in prison. Stephen Matthews is considered the most prolific serial Bill Cosby in the history of Colorado, in which he reigned for 4 years from 2019 to 2023. So let's dive into today's story as we try to figure out what was going on in Christopher Matthews' mind. I will say this about this video: viewer discretion is advised. So the investigation started off when a woman, let's call her Allie, was scrolling on the dating website Hinge. And while scrolling the app, she came across Christopher Matthews' profile, which she thought was pretty interesting because he had put down that he was a cardiologist, he went on adventures, as well as he has a dog. Allie liked the fact that he was handsome and successful cardiologist, as well as he was an animal lover. So she went ahead and matched with him, and when she was surprised that he matched back with her. Now, after chatting for a while, they decided to meet in person. Now, Allie was excited about this first date, and she wanted to know Steven on a more personal level. So on January of 2023, the pair decided to meet at a bar for a drink. And that's because Steven wanted to put Allie at ease and meet in the public area. Now, during the dates, Allie would say that Steven was polite and he didn't give off any F-boy signals. So after a while, Steven suggested they walk back to his townhouse because he has to let his dog out, which Allie agreed, and so they walked back to his townhouse, and upon getting there, she asked him to use his bathroom, and he said she can go ahead and use it. Now, upon exiting out the bathroom, Steven would pass Allie a drink, even though she thought that was kind of odd because she never asked for a drink. Now, Allie, she didn't want to seem rude and she wanted to offend them, so she went ahead and took the drink and drank about a quarter of it. Now, after a few minutes of having her drink, she started to feel ill as well as having a slurred speech. Now, Allie would say that she remembered falling to the ground, and when she looked up, she noticed that Steven was filming her. Now, Allie would say that Steven went ahead and attacked her by putting her in the headlock and trying to force her to kiss him. She said the position that he put her in was so painful that she couldn't break out of it. Allie, she would say she managed to escape, where she ran out the townhouse shoeless and barely conscious, but she was able to get into an Uber and escape back to her own place. Now, even though Allie was able to escape, but a few days later, another victim wasn't so lucky. So the second woman, let's call her Audrey, had met Steven on a dating site in which they met for brunch. And after meeting for brunch, he invited her back to his place, in which they played Jenga and took a dip in the hot tub. And after taking that drink, Audrey will go ahead and say that everything went dark afterwards, in which she would wake up hours later with hickeys and bruises and no recollection of what happened. So far what Steven is doing is known as drug facilitated SA. Now, what drug facilitated SA or DFSA is when the person gives somebody else another substance that makes them black out or susceptible to suggestion. Now, this can be done in 3 different ways. Now, the first one, the victim can be voluntary, where say for you decide to go to a bar or go to a party after a hard week of work, and you went over your limit, where somebody comes by and take advantage of your impaired mental state. Now, the second one can be either voluntary or involuntary, where somebody urges you to have either one more drink or take you someplace for party favors. The third one is involuntary, where the person may slip something into your drink while you're not paying attention, or if you just walk away from your glass, and they wait for the substance to take effect before making their move. The way that Stephen Matthews was going about, he was option number 3. So after waking up, Audrey would go ahead and head to the police department and file a report. The police would go ahead and launch an investigation because she was the second person that's made this kind of complaint, because the first person was Allie. During the police investigation, they found there were more and more women with the exact same story of going to this man's house, playing Jenga, having a dip in his hot tub, and then blank. Now, one woman would say that 10 hours after meeting Steven was complete blank, and she doesn't remember how she got home. Now, that woman, let's go ahead and call her Stephanie. Now, Stephanie would say that Steven was very savvy, was able to build trust, but one thing all the victims had in common was that Steven always suggested meeting in a public area, as well as whenever they met, he always talked about his dog. And he would oftentimes use that as an excuse to go back to his apartment or his townhouse. Stephanie would recall being in the fetal position after taking a single drink at Steven's home. Now, Stephanie would say that she remembers waking up in her own home and noticing that Steven was in the room with her. Now, Steven would go ahead and ask Stephanie for a second date, in which she had refused. And after refusing that date, Steven would go ahead and send her pictures of herself in her birthday suit while she was unconscious. And then we have victim number 4, let's call her Mary, who came forward with the investigation, in which she stated that she remembered waking up in Steven's home in her birthday suit, handcuffed to a sofa. Now, during the investigation, Allie had discovered there was a Facebook group about this man. You know, on Facebook they may have a group called Are We Dating the Same Man or Woman? Yeah, this group is kind of like that, where it was about, have you met this man, Stephen Matthews? In which, when you think about it, it was pretty much a support group with all the women were trying to sit there and figure out what happened to him and try to piece together that night. So in March of 2023, Stephen was arrested for what he did to Allie, but shortly later he was able to bond out. By October of 2023, he was rearrested again after being charged with 38 counts against 8 women, in which none of them he actually SA'd. Now when it comes to Stephen Matthews, it wasn't about consent or doing the deed, it was all about control. He used his power as a doctor to gain their trust before abusing them. and after giving them their drinks, he would ask them to stay a few minutes because using his knowledge as a doctor, he knew how long it would take for the medication to take effect. Now, one thing the women would do was after they would wake up after being blacked out, they would ask them what happened, in which he would gaslight them by saying that they couldn't handle their alcohol. Now, during the trial, the women would give an impact statement by saying that he would advertise on both Hinge, Tinder, and among other dating sites that he was this athletic, handsome doctor who had a dog that was appealing to women and would use their softness as a reason to target them. During the trial, Stephen was called a narcissistic monster, in which he was convicted of 35 out of 38 counts of drugging and SAing of multiple victims. Now, Stephen would start crying after being found guilty of his charges. Even Stephen's own mother tried to plead for leniency for her son, which didn't work out in their favor. So as of right now, Stephen is currently serving 158 years in prison, and the DA is also thanking the women for coming forward and bringing this man to justice. So with that, be careful who you go on a date with, as well as never take a drink that you didn't see being made. If you like more forensic analysis of cases like this, go ahead and stay tuned to my channel for more videos to come. And if you're new, go ahead and check out my previous videos that you may like. And with that, be safe and take care of one another.